What is up, guys? Rambling Collector back here with another DC Comics review for all of you. And today, I'm going to be covering New 52's Batman Detective Comics series. So, as of right now, I'm still relatively new to the series, but I have completed the first 3 volumes of this series, and I'm pretty psyched to talk about it. So, let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, so as of the making of this video, I have thus far read the first 3 volumes of this series. And I gotta be honest with you guys, after reading the first 3, I'm actually psyched to see more of where the series is going to go. Just everything about it in the storyline is what keeps me going. The dark and gritty of it with Batman trying to stop crimes from both minor and major parties, ranging from the lowest street thug to the most minor Batman villain to just major players like Two-Face, Joker, and even Penguin, whom I noticed really gets more of a spotlight in this series. Hell, a lot of the villains do, except for maybe Joker. Joker, by far I noticed, is not in this series as much, at least as far as I know from the first 3, which probably means he's more in the New 52 Batman series proper. But I think I'm going to stick with Detective Comics for right now, and just see where it goes. And guys, I gotta be honest with you, I think I get where Zack Snyder might have gotten his inspiration for Batman with Ben Affleck, because looking at Batman's physique and his build and everything else, it definitely screams Ben Affleck, or Batfleck. But dear God, I was not expecting how dark this series could get, you guys. Like, just from the first 2 cover arts, I should have expected it, but wow! This series can pull out all kinds of levels of what the hell did I just read? And yet at the same time, it keeps you going. Because it introduces new players to the game, new minor crooks, serial killers that Batman tracks down. It's not just Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, and so many other major players. There's minor characters that play a part in this too. And it's really interesting to see their mini arcs play out through this series. But as for the story, I do like where it's going. Sometimes it can feel a little disjointed because one moment you could be following one villain and then the next it jumps to another. But there is an overarching story here, and I noticed how it seems to revolve around Penguin and his organization, how Oswald Cobblepot somehow gets dethroned by one of his lieutenants, who calls himself Emperor Penguin as a more superior version. But yeah, I was actually really psyched to see more of this. And I'm actually pretty excited to see more of where the story goes. But for now, let's talk about some of the more positives of it, such as the art style. So one of the things I've definitely come to appreciate during the course of this series is definitely the art style. I love the sharp angles and attention to detail that is shown here, with the whole mix of dark colors mixed with bright and the occasional sense of a weapon or an explosion that really highlights the page and makes everything just feel alive but messed up in so many ways. And seriously, you can actually see such attention to detail, such as when the doll maker here, you could see the stitching on his face where he has messed himself up to that point that he's been mixing skin on himself, and it's so messed up. But then you also get these neat little panels where it shows detective work going on, with crooks going on their way to walk to their destination or committing back alley deals. But then, of course, you get to the more uber-violent stuff. Like, seriously, in the first issue, it has Joker having his face surgically removed, and then the final page of the issue is just showing it nailed to a wall. And if you look closely, you can actually see that there are tufts of green hair, where as it was being removed, he accidentally cut a little too close to the scalp, and took off a little bit of his hair. But let me tell you, that is one of the more disturbing pieces that you see here, where you just see a mouthless Joker face where you can see the eye holes and the mouth holes and just the eyebrows. Just why would he do this to himself? Seriously, that immediately grabbed my attention and made me want to read more. Like, I know some of you might be faint of heart and you may not want some of that darker, gorier stuff, but in a way it kind of highlights more of just how messed up Batman's world really is. It's just, what is it with the people of Gotham and just going on an absolute rampage of manic insanity, or just being an all-around douchebag? Or just a super crook in general? Let me tell you though, this definitely highlights a lot of more of the Gotham nightlife, and it really just shows that Batman really needs a vacation some days. But the art style really helps to bring all these characters to life in ways that I hadn't really seen before, but I'm definitely interested now to see more of this. Which, speaking of characters, so the one thing is, I never knew that there were so many different characters in just the world of Batman. Like, so many villains, too, are shown here, both minor and major. Like, even if you're a small Batman fan, you obviously know about Two-Face, Joker, the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and all of them. But I also like how Detective Comics doesn't focus too much on them. Well, I mean, it does, but again, it also gives more of a highlight to some of the more minor villains like Dollmaker, Victor Zsasz, Mr. Toxic. Hell, Mr. Toxic's short story was fascinating to say the least, because it shows that he has a ton of clones of himself. And I gotta tell you, some of the more messed up stuff I saw was when one of his clones was decomposing and you could see this flesh just melting on his face. I wasn't able to find a photo of it, but if you ever pick up this comic, you'll see it for yourself and just, wow, it is dark. But I also like how, speaking of the villains, you also get these little bits, like these little mini-series or one-shots of all the different characters. Like, you see a bit more of Penguin, you see, I think it was like a 4-issue bit of Two-Face in this story that I actually found myself enjoying. And hell, we even had a one-shot of Victor Zsasz in Volume 3, which that was an interesting piece. As well as seeing the Penguin in the background just having everything that he had built being stolen from him by one of his lieutenants definitely makes for an interesting story. Plus, it also gives more of the three-dimensional look to some of these characters instead of just the normal Saturday morning cartoon, beat-em-up style villain. And it really highlights more of their characters. It lets us go in-depth and connect with them. Like, Two-Face is just a messed up person, seriously. But he's also got that mob boss mentality that I thought was really fun to read about. Joker, you all know, is just going to be the absolute wild card. And really, you just can't stop staring at him in this one. You just see that flesh mask around him where he has carved off his own face, and you can see the muscle tissue underneath, which makes for a very disturbing sight that you just can't look away from. Cobblepot was definitely an interesting character, but dude, he is cocky as all hell. He's just like, I'm better than Mr. Wayne. The Cobblepot family will finally be the favorite son in Gotham. Nope. As of Volume 3, as far as I knew, he just had his whole entire fortune and everything he has built up stolen away from him by one of his lieutenants. And Zsasz. I was not expecting to see a one-shot of him in Volume 3, but I was fascinated. Plus, it also gives us a bit of his backstory of how Penguin really screwed him over. Like, Zsasz just lost everything in the Iceberg Casino because he was a major gambler. So he lost everything thanks to the Penguin, who ended up bankrupting Zsasz. And the minute I saw Zsasz recognizing Penguin and seeing him in prison, I was half tempted to see if he was going to kill him. It looked like he was pretty close until Joker stopped him. Damn you, Joker. But again, Mr. Toxic, Dollmaker, a lot of these minor villains that pop up every now and again, they have some really interesting stories. Like, even if they're brief and they're just like the normal crook of the day for Batman, I find it good that we get not only the major villains, but also a lot of minor villains that Batman can either take down within a couple issues of the comic, or they could stretch out for their own little 4 or even 6-issue miniseries. I like that. I like how there's more character to these villains. But also some of the other characters, like we see occasional glimpses of Nightwing, and a lot of Batman. And, I mean, of course, it is his story, but even just that break to see more of these villainous characters highlighted was definitely a treat for me as I was reading. So as of right now, I will give Detective Comics a good 10 out of 10, both for really well done art style, engaging story, and more importantly, it always managed to keep my attention as I was reading. Now, a couple of other reviews I want to do at some point will be the comic Batman Hush or New 52's Suicide Squad series. Let me know what you want to see more of in the comments down below, and let me know if you want to vote for either Suicide Squad or Batman Hush for me to review next. I would love to hear your all's opinion. Anyways, thank you all for listening. I hope to see you all again in the next video. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now.